But Helena still honored its frontier past. As late as 1895, the town sent out printed invitations to public hangings in the main square. Another young Englishman, Alfred Brazier, who had arrived in Helena at around the same time, sent for his younger sister Alice to come join him. She lacked her brother's uncritical affection for the new territory. As soon as she got to Helena, Alice deposited enough money in a local bank account to cover her return fare to England. When the Panic of 1893 ripped the floor out from under the price of silver and Helena's banks collapsed, Alice consulted Charles Cooper as to how to retrieve her money, but instead of fleeing back to England, she married the young lawyer. A year later, she gave birth to a boy they named Arthur, and 6 years after that, on May 7, 1901, they added a second son, Frank James Cooper, born in a bedroom on the second floor of a modest but comfortable Victorian at the corner of 11th Avenue and Raleigh Street. Cowboys, Indians, wolf hunters, and women of uncertain virtue still walked the streets of Helena in 1901, but Charles Russell's Old West was already more fable than reality. The Coopers lived in a succession of houses just south of the state capitol building for a decade, while Charles built a legal and political career that eventually led to a seat on the state Supreme Court. They spent part of the year on a ranch 50 miles north of town on 600 acres that Charles bought from the Northern Pacific in 1906. The 7 Bar 9 Ranch was located on the banks of the Missouri River in the foothills of the Big Belt Mountains parallel to the Rockies, an area named the Gates of the Mountains by Meriwether Lewis. He and William Clark and the 32-member Corps of Discovery had camped a mile upriver on July 17, 1805, and 100 years later young Frank Cooper could still explore the same sights and observe the same wildlife as Lewis and Clark. Steep volcanic canyons and soaring rock formations, home to bear, deer, elk, mountain lions, bobcats, mountain goats, coyotes, grouse, quail, geese, duck, and beaver. Frank would later recall his proper English mother shearing sheep, branding cattle, shoveling manure before dawn, and swinging an axe at 20 below zero to break open bales of frozen hay. Then there was the Chinook, the warm wind that raced through the valley in early spring, melting the deep snow and creating a wall of water that barreled down the river gorge and swept away soil and seed, leaving the Cooper Ranch stripped to its bedrock. Alice Cooper never quite overcame her mixed feelings about this wild country and feared its coarse impact on her two sons, and she convinced Charles to take them to her native Kent for a proper English education. They deposited the boys for 3 years at Dunstable, a boarding school that sanded their rougher edges and subjected them to the rigors of Latin, French, and higher mathematics. It was there that Frank Cooper learned to speak French, solve an equation, wear a top hat, and bow from the waist. He returned to Montana in 1913, grew 6 inches in 2 years, and began filling in his handsome, narrow face with its sparkling blue eyes and long lashes. He learned to ride a horse with skill and precision, clean and shoot a rifle, hunt game with a bow and arrow, and spend hours alone in the silent landscape, sketching the wilderness in charcoal and pencil. Early in his teenage years, his friend Harvey Markham crashed the family Model T, throwing Frank from the passenger seat. Limping and in pain, he was told it was just torn ligaments, but many years later he found out his hip had been broken and never properly healed. The injury cost him 2 years of schooling. He entered Grinnell College in Iowa at age 20, lasted 3 years, charmed teachers and fellow students with his easy manner and crooked grin, but never graduated. By then, his father had left the bench for a lucrative private law practice. A complex real estate case brought Charles and Alice to Los Angeles for an extended period that became permanent. Frank, still hoping to become a commercial artist, came to visit at Thanksgiving 1924. He never left. At first, he looked for a job as a newspaper cartoonist but got nowhere. He drew display ads on commission but sold none. For a few weeks.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.